Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What is going on? This is your girl, Dr. T.O.D. Saturday morning coffee with me. Get your cup of coffee this morning. And let me just tell you, I'm super excited to be on with you this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. And it is Heart Health Month, and I realized I didn't have anything red, so I had to put on some red lipstick, you guys. But in the meantime, I want to start off by letting you know who I am. I'm Dr. T.O.D. I am a life and business coach and optometrist by trade. And one of the things that I do Saturday mornings is, number one, get up early, right? Y'all are like, Dr. T, it is just too early. What are you doing on at 8 o'clock? Well, I have somebody that gets up much earlier than I do on a Saturday morning, and that's my best friend. And we've been best friends since high school. And so, life happens and we're moving, married and all that good stuff. And so Saturday mornings ended up being a time where we chopped it up. We talked about our week and how everything is going and things of that nature. So I wanted to figure out a way to kind of share that with you, as well as how I can incorporate it in the life coaching business, because sometimes we need that talking as a friend. It may just mean that you need somebody to listen to. And usually that's what a friend is. It's somebody that wants to listen to you, right? And that's the operative word, wants to listen to you. And do you want to listen to them back as a friend? So today, I wanted to kind of go over just some real talk about what is it about you that makes you a real friend. I posed the question yesterday because somebody asked me the question of why can't I make friends, or why is it so difficult for me to make friends? And that person really was trying to look within themselves to figure out whether or not it was them that was the cause. So I wanted to have you understand. I posed a question yesterday. What exactly is a real friend, or how many real friends do you really have, and how many real friends do you really need, right? So as I was pondering over this, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when you understand who your tribe is in your life, is the key point of what makes you you. I've talked about moving into 2021, the power of you. And I guess I'm being pulled back to kind of talk about the power that you have over your life. And number one, just being able to understand and being accepting of who you are and not wanting to change that for anybody. For anybody. You don't want to change you. Be who you are now. This person thought that they were a bad person because they didn't have friends. And I said, no. I really had to go a little left. It's like a bad person is Charles Manson. You know, Charles Manson. A bad person is somebody that's technically, I wouldn't use the word bad, but somebody that's narcissistic, that's always thinking of themselves and never thinking of anybody else. A bad person is somebody that is really all about them and nothing else. So when I say you, I don't mean to put you in that space, people. I don't want to put you in that space. But when I say you, I want you to understand how valuable you are. You have value, and you need to understand that. What are your gifts? What are your talents? And then those people that want to find you will find you. Who God puts you in their life, in your life, and in their life. And there's a season for friends. There's a season for opportunities. There's a season for relationship. And not everybody is going to be with you throughout your whole journey. There may be a portion that people are going to be with you. So I'm just going to turn this off. I'm just going to silence this a little bit. If you can hear that music in the background. I wanted us to really focus on, no pun intended, y'all, really focus on what is it about being real, and what is it about how you can be real with yourself and real with one another. So I started doing acronyms, as in a way of trying to explain the importance of what I'm talking about. So when I ask the question about, how many real friends do you have? Or are you a real friend? Right? And how does friendship play in your life? So let me just read a couple of things. So a real friend, and then I'll go with my acronym. Let me go with my acronym first. So I took down real. For me, a real friend, or if I am a real friend to somebody, is that a real friend is reliable. That's for the R. A real friend, the E, is there are certain expectations that you have and that other person has. A, alignability or alignment. And L is for life, right? L is for life. And I'll go over what that means, in my head a little bit, and maybe in yours. So a real friend, a good friend, and I want to put down real friend. I don't want to necessarily say good or bad. I don't want to use those terms. But what I'm saying is a real friend accepts you for who you are. They accept you because that's who you were made. You were made. God made you. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. He knew what you were going to have before you were even birthed. He knew your gifts before you was even birthed. He thought of that for you, but you just don't know, right? You just don't know. A real friend sticks around during the good and the bad times, right? So if you're going through amazing times, that friend is going to be there. And then you realize whether or not a friend is really real or true is when those bad times come. I always say a real friend really shows whether or not a person is a real friend is if you're getting married or if there's a death in the family or pregnant or stuff like that, needing things done, and they're still part of your extended family, right? That's a real friend. A real friend celebrates life with you. See, that's my L. That is my L. They celebrate life with you, you know? And so a real friend will make time to see you or call you or Zoom with you or FaceTime with you. That's a real friend. It may not happen all the time. It may not happen when you want it to happen. It may not happen every single day, but they at least took the time out to send you a text to say, "Hey, can we FaceTime?" Whatever. Going back to the old-fashioned way and mailing a card, right? That's a real friend. A real friend will tell you the truth even if you don't want to hear it. And even if you don't like the truth, a real friend will do that. Right? So that's a real friend. A real friend encourages you to achieve your goals. A real friend, I'm going to say that again. A real friend encourages you to achieve your goals. And so I'm could be talking to somebody younger right now, some of my teens and young adults. But if you have somebody in there that's not on the same level with you, and trying to really make sure that you're okay with your aspirations, that your aspirations can be achieved. And when you're feeling down about trying to achieve those aspirations, they're there to kind of say, "You got this." That's why I always say, some of my things, "You got this," right? A real friend helps us feel comfortable in our own skin. And so this is one of the things that I told this person is that, a real person, a real friend helps you feel comfortable in your own skin. You don't need to change for anybody else because that's who you are, Now, sometimes I'll go back a little bit. I'll step back a little bit. Sometimes when you're feeling in that moment, when you're saying, "Is it about me?" It's a reflective process for you to evaluate you and see whether or not you're the cause of any pain or you're the cause of any turmoil or you're the cause of any chaos in a relationship. However, um, again, you want to look at that. But a friend would not change you, or a friend will accept you for who you are. A friend will really understand that's who you are. And if they want to be a friend, they can accept that. And then the other piece, they don't have to. They don't have to accept you. They don't have to be your friend. It's a choice. It's a choice. So, that's one of those things. And when you're trying to say, "Oh, I need friends, how many friends? I need friends, I need more." Listen, I always say you can do battle by yourself, you know? So that's where that is. So I'm going to go back a little bit to when I was saying, what makes a real friend? And the first thing I said, we have a friend in Jesus. And that person was like, "I don't want to hear it." And sometimes when you are when Jesus is your foundation, you have to be mindful of the responses that you're talking and who you're talking to. Not to say that person isn't a believer, right? But sometimes when we're constantly pushing Jesus, that's not something that somebody wants to hear, but make sure that that's in the background. Like, God, will in this situation, how can I help this person? What can use my words, oh Father God, for me to be able to really help this person in this time, help a friend in this time. Because sometimes people don't want to always hear Jesus, but yet they want to see Jesus in you. Okay. Sometimes they don't want to always hear Jesus, but sometimes Jesus needs to just come out of you, whatever words that you were saying, right? So, real reliability as a friend. One second, something just came to my head. Reliability as a friend, right? Reliability as a friend. And so, are you a reliable person? Can somebody rely on you? You know, what is it that you know about you that's reliable? And maybe you need to be reliable. Maybe that's something that a person dislikes about you, that you're not reliable as a friend, right? And then maybe that's a question that you might need to ask. you know am I reliable to people, right? Can people rely on me? hmm can people rely on me? So then the other one is expectations. Anytime that you're in a relationship, there are expectations. And those expectations really need to be discussed. It's a give and take in a friendship. It's a give and take in a relationship. As your coach, you know, the same thing. I have certain expectations, and you may have certain expectations of what you're expecting me as your coach. So there's expectations. And what are they for you? Label them out, list them out, tell people what they are. And either they'll accept them or they're not, right? And so when you're listing those expectations, the next thing is alignment, because that person may either have similar expectations in their lives, or it's just one of those things that you really see that this person gets me. I get this person, right? So you want to be mindful of that. Right? You want to be mindful of that. And so when the last one is life, right? The last one is life. And where do you see yourself in your life? And that person, where do you see that person in your life? How do they fit into the scheme of your things? Where are you going? And then even with your life, there's a journey with your life. And so are they fitting in this voyage with you that you're on? Are they fitting with you in this time of your life? And they may not. They may have fit in that particular point of your life early on. And it doesn't mean that if they're not in your life now that they won't be in your life later, because you've already established a relationship with this person. But what are the expectations? And sometimes we fail to put those expectations out there for people to understand what those expectations are. And then we also need to have discernment on whether or not that person is aligned with what God wants for you in your life. Back to L. So when we're putting all this together, when you ask the question, why me? Why not you? And why not you in every aspect of your life? Because you have the power to evoke a response from people. You have the power to give response to people. You have the power to Change a situation if it needs to be changed, when it needs to be changed, or if you need to walk away from the situation because it's not part of your expectations. You're not in alignment with that situation. You get me? You feel me? It's not part of your life. It's not what God has for you or you have for yourself, which ultimately goes back to what God has for you. So I want you to be mindful when you're asking those questions about who are your friends, who are your colleagues, even at work, right? You want to create opportunities for improving yourself when you're having those questions. You want to create opportunities to really sit back and write about your feelings. Get a journal, you know. And sometimes it's not meant for you to figure out why somebody doesn't like you, dislike you, or wants to be or not be your friend. Sometimes you just have to sit in it and see what happens and be okay with the outcome of where your friendship is going, right? Or how it's going to be. What accomplishments are you trying to do? That again, it goes back to that friend is going to be there regardless of whether or not you achieve your goals, how much money you have, whether or not you have, whether or not you fail at a particular task, and that person is supposed to be there like, baby, it's okay. So I brought this up because it still seems like I'm toying with the power of you and why you are so important. And don't ever question your importance. Don't ever question your significance in life. Don't ever question why you don't have friends or why you don't have as many friends as other people have. Don't ever question that. The one question that you can have is, what is it about me that's either not attracting people to me? What is it about me that I'm attracted to other people or the wrong people? What is it that I need to get out of life? Am I relevant, reliable? I can go on about R. And maybe I'll keep going with that next week. What are the expectations? Are they going to endure with you throughout your life? Are they aligned with you? Are they accepting of you? Do they really, really know who you are? And do you really know who you are? Are you that friend that's really going to be there for people? Or are you accepting people to just be there for you? Are you that friend that knows when to step back and be understanding that that person is not willing to talk to you at a specific time? And are you willing to be in that person's life for the duration of their life and vice versa? Is that one is going to be there for you? And so when we talk about being a real friend, I always go back to why I created this in the first place. This is why I created Coffee with Dr. T. Because my best friend Tisha, she's in New York. We're not in the same space, but I consider her my sister. I consider her a real, true friend. She's reliable. When I call her, even if she doesn't answer the phone, she calls me back or texts me back, especially depending on the time of day. We understand our lives' expectations. And so for my young people, you really haven't developed your expectations yet. And when I'm saying young people, I'm saying like your teenage to mid, 20s. Sometimes those your expectations, are not there yet because you haven't lived long enough to really figure out what you want in life. You might have an idea, but you're still developing your expectations. And then is that person aligned with you? I got, when I was younger, I said, if you don't think like me, then I can't be around you. If you're going left, I'm going right. Right? And what do you have for your life? What do you see for your life? And does that person fit in? So that is, why I came up with that today, is because of the question is saying, why don't I have real friends? And to be honest with you, when I was growing up, I only had four. Everybody else kind of was associates. Now, today, I can say that I truly have real friends, and they weren't my friends from when I was younger. So for my younger folks, sometimes the friends that you think are friends are not necessarily friends that are going to happen when you're my age. And so you want to be mindful of, you know, are you a reliable person? Are you fitting in everybody else's expectations? And the one thing I'm going to leave you with that I really, really think is important out of the tips, and I really say this with all true sincerity and honesty, that a real friend helps you feel comfortable in your own skin. That's it. You shouldn't have to change for anybody unless you're changing to make yourself better. That's the only change that you should have, is if you're changing to make yourself better, if you're making improvements on your life. But if you're already doing wonderful and marvelous things in your life, if you're always reliable, if people have expectations and you're showing up and you're meeting those expectations, if those people are aligned within your life and you're aligned in theirs, and basically, if you live long enough, you'll understand in life that there's a season for everybody that's going to come in, and you just don't know it at that time. And when you're younger, you don't really understand that. So if you have a younger person that comes to you, my sisters and my brothers, that ask you, why don't I have friends? Don't look at the negative parts of that child. Don't look at the negative aspect of that person. Don't look at the negative aspect of it. Figure out a way to put the realness in their lives and make them reflect on who they are, and make sure they understand that they don't need to change. Because when you're trying to change people, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Be who you are. Be who God created you to be. And you know what? We don't really know all of what God has created us to be, especially if we haven't lived long enough. you know so when a young person comes to you and asks you that, if you even come to me and ask me, why don't I have friends, the only thing I can say is, are you reliable? Do you set your own expectations? Are those people meeting your expectations? Are you aligned with these people, or are they aligned with you? And you will know when they're aligned with you. You will know, because what you're doing, they're doing. Alignment is a parallel, right? And just live long enough to know and realize who your friends are going to be, and be okay with the season that you're in if that person is in your life at a particular time. So this is your girl, Dr. TOD. I hope this added value to whoever's watching today. It's just one of those things that we kind of ponder about, why me, and what is it about you that you need to discover. You need to open it up. And so it goes back. I woke up this morning about the alabaster box, right? And go to the song of Alabaster Box. I can't play it, but that is my song. That's my song. Because that's the same part. If you go to that song and you listen to it, that person was shunned. That person was looked at. That person was mocked. That person was laughed at. And so in an alabaster box is a special box. It's only open once. That alabaster box is a special box. And if you look at that and look at that moment, when you have to use that box. It's a special moment. It's a special moment because you're giving honor to God in that moment. And so I want you to really look at your life in 2021 and really hone in on your realness. And are you being real? And I'm not saying about fake, because I could probably talk about fake. But are you really being real with yourself, with others? Okay. And I could talk about the alabaster box a little bit for myself. Because in that song, it says, you weren't there when Jesus found me. And a lot of times when we're asking those questions, it's a time when you need to just spend time trying to listen and get the noise out. And he wrapped his loving arms around me. Sometimes that actual person is not the one that's going to give you that hug that you need. And sometimes a friend is not going to be there when you really need them. Right? So you want to be okay with that. An alabaster box is a treasure. And I looked at it a little differently. I'm that alabaster box. Because I'm that one that pours into people. I'm that one that cherishes life. I'm that one that questioned why I did not have friends. And now I have a lot of friends. Because it was that night that I realized that I only needed one friend. So I need you to start looking at yourself and figuring it out, what is about you. And then when you're looking at whether or not what is it about me, make sure you go to the Father. Or go to whoever you have in your life. What spirituality do you have in your life? Go back to that foundation. And if you don't, I ask you to look at that. Because it is so important to understand that you're not alone. And this is why I'm kind of staying here a little bit longer. You are not alone. You are not alone. And regardless if you have one friend or if you have, as one of my Spelman sisters said, 150, whether or not you can actually see them, you always have a friend. This is your girl, Dr. T.O.D. And I want you to be real. And I want you to make sure that you help others be real. Be blessed.